16th Sunday in Ordinary Time, Year C, July 20, 2025. In today's readings, Abraham, Sarah, Martha, and Mary share one thing in common. They welcomed guests to their homes and were hospitable. The passage portrays two kinds of hospitality, one shown to a familiar guest and the other to total strangers. In some regions of the world, hospitality to strangers is seen as a cultural way of life and a religious act, as it was in ancient times. On the other hand, some cultures frown upon it. Understandably, concerns for safety and crime have limited people's sense of hospitality to strangers in some regions. The readings generally speak of the good aspect of hospitality practiced by Abraham, Sarah, Martha, and Mary. Abraham was sitting at the entrance of his tent when he saw three men standing nearby. Not knowing they were angels of God, he ran to them and invited them to his tent. Abraham and his entire household entertained and served them. They blessed Sarah and Abraham with their innermost heart desires in return for their kindness, charity, and hospitality. Abraham was promised a son by the time they returned the following year. We know what followed. As Sarah laughed out loud when she heard the conversation, thinking she was too old and had passed the childbearing age, Isaac would become an answer to God's promise to Abraham. Our gospel reading continues the story of the Good Samaritan. In his teachings, Jesus points out the importance of discipleship in assisting our neighbors and meeting their needs. You recognize in the Samaritan story action was of great essence. However, in the story of Martha and Mary, action takes a back seat, while listening is preferred. Martha and Mary's role is that of every disciple who struggles to balance active service and a contemplative life, the life of prayer. Also, on the spiritual side, their roles could be seen in prayer and service. Jesus' response to Martha teaches us that listening to God nourishes our activity in life. At any rate, they complement each other since they both witness different ways of ministering to others. And a balance of both is what is needed in our relationship with one another. It shows that good discernment of the Spirit is necessary at any given moment to know how to respond to the discipleship cause. Last week, the Good Samaritan was applauded for his service, and today the same action as Martha's service to Jesus is questioned and looked upon differently. Martha is busy, and Mary takes time to sit at the feet of Jesus and listen to him, like a good student eager to learn from his teacher. As in the Good Samaritan story, the priest and the Levite were passive as they walked by the other side, thinking their duty and indifference were more critical to the needs of their neighbor. They were complacent and indifferent. Jesus highly praises the ability to listen and be attentive to God's words in this singular instance on his visit with his disciples to Martha and Mary. He is still on a journey to Jerusalem, not so much on the physical but the spiritual with his disciples. In a way, it echoes the scriptural phrase that obedience is better than sacrifice. It doesn't suggest that sacrifice was not relevant, but everything has its proper place and time. Without taking away the necessity of service, it stresses that it's much more essential to remain in the presence of God than to indulge in overwhelming activities and feeling anxious. We must remember that previously Jesus had defined his family as those who listened to his words, heard them, and did them. Without service, our prayers can become hypocritical, and likewise, without prayer, God's inspiration, our actions can become empty. We need both at their proper time. Abraham, our father in faith, was an exemplar of hospitality. He was obedient, faithful, and righteous in his actions, demonstrating the love of God and neighbor. Our readings help point us towards living the life of a good disciple. As St. Paul strengthens his community by urging them to always stand firm and praise God. We might ask ourselves, where do I belong? Are you more of Martha or Mary, Abraham or Sarah? Are you one of the others at some point in your faith journey? Or are you among the beneficiaries of good hospitality? Jesus is still on a journey from Galilee to Jerusalem, and so are we in our faith journey as his disciples. It's necessary to note that nothing is wrong with doing and nothing wrong with being. Each complements the other. It's essential to open our hearts to welcome Jesus in our neighbor, to receive Jesus by listening to his word, and to welcome him each time we gather at the Eucharistic table without allowing anxiety, fear, and anxiousness to overwhelm us, which could prevent us from seeing Jesus in others. Above all, having a close relationship with Jesus is crucial in the life of a disciple. As we accompany others in our faith journey, we listen well, pay attention to his words, and live them out by our witness. Have a beautiful Sunday.